The Toronto Raptors have found their next star, as the primary focus for this entire organization over the past year and a half has been to find and develop young talent. And with the ninth overall pick in this year's NBA draft, the Raptors selected Collin Murray-Boyles, which surprised a lot of people. But after the quotes that Darko Rajaković has said about this guy, after the summer league that we saw very, very encouraging performances for, and most importantly, what the insiders, what people are saying coming out of training camp so far this year, Collin Murray-Boyles has put the entire organization on notice, the fan base on notice, and he is looking like the Toronto Raptors' next star. So we're going to break down all of these latest developments, why Raptors fans, Raptors insiders, heck, his own teammates are very excited about him being on the squad, and why this draft pick that everyone was shocked and said, what the heck is going on, when he was selected number 9 overall by this team, he is looking like someone that is going to take a massive leap in his game into stardom for this Raptors team. So lots of stuff to break down in this video. Before we do, folks, the Blue Jays are playing some playoff baseball today, so wishing some luck to the Toronto Blue Jays out there. I've, especially over the past season, become a big Blue Jays fan. So, definitely wishing them luck here as they take on the New York Yankees tonight. Check it out on Blue Jays Digest as well. They're covering every single little thing that's happening with the team. Nick does a phenomenal job there covering the Blue Jays, so definitely check out Jays Digest. But we cover the Toronto Raptors here as much as I'm supporting the Blue Jays, and we have a lot to be excited about. Of course, Collin Murray-Boyles is a guy that, Raptors fans have been, back and forth on since he was drafted by this team. I mean, we go back to draft night and we see how people were reacting. This is an excerpt as soon as he got drafted from my own live stream. People were not happy. People were not excited. I chose to believe in Masai Ujiri. Of course, with the jury still out, the guys have played a single game of preseason just yet, but he is completely turning heads from what we're seeing out there in training camp. We'll take a look at some of the quotes here first. Josh Loomberg has come out and said that Collin Murray-Boyles has been one of the most impressive players on the floor today, really pressuring Barnes and Ingram on defense, which tracks with what he told us the other day. I want to make it as hard as possible for them on offense, and that's how I'm making them better. And we got a lot of quotes coming out from this area as well, saying that really just my mindset coming into it is really just what can I give these guys? Obviously, I want to give them the hardest time on defense. That's how I'm making them better, especially offensive heavy guys that the offense follows through. I want to make it as hard as possible for them so it's easier for them in the actual game. So just trying to bring an edge to the team and trying to figure out how I can contribute. And if there's one thing we're seeing from the clips coming out of training camp, all this type of stuff, is that CMB is really just making his name known out there on the defensive end. He's providing energy, he's providing intensity, and this is something we expected from him coming in and, to provide that intensity, but we're seeing the praise being sung from everywhere out there on this Raptors roster. Scottie Barnes had a lot to say on this on the other end, saying that Collin is super physical. He's super aggressive on the defensive side. He is a beast. He is a monster. Where he's able to get those deflections, he's going to be dangerous in transition, where he's able to show his athleticism because he's very athletic for his size. Of course, being very, very strong. He's very strong. He's got a lot of great tools. His game is going to keep developing, and it's only his first year. He has a lot to learn, but he's going to keep developing and keep growing. So we're seeing a lot of people praise him on the defensive end, his prowess, his intensity. And this is something we saw from Summer League. Like, the guy was an absolute, monster out there for this Raptors team in Summer League. In college, averaged 17 points per game, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. Elite defensive guy in Summer League. Had some big nights, 20 point per game against the Warriors, or 20 point game against the Warriors. Had some, 4 really, really strong outings defensively, offensively, out there during Summer League for this group. He's 6'7", 245. I've seen him listed as different heights and different sizes, whatever, but just from the eye test, just from looking at him, just from seeing it, out there on the basketball court, there are a few players that we've seen match up with him in terms of size and physical prowess. The dude is an absolute tank out there, and he moves very, very great laterally in terms of, be able to have that size and frame and then be able to keep up with guys that might be quicker but can't move through him. So that's a huge positive there. And Darko Rajaković had a lot to say about him as well. Offensively, he can pass the ball really well, so we'd like to see him bring the ball in his hands. And is that bringing the ball up? Is that attacking closeouts? Is that going to be some pick and rolls, pick and pops? I think he can do quite a bit for us. It's going to be really interesting pairing him with Sandro together with Scottie. Who's the roller? Who is spacing? I think it's going to open up a lot of things for us offensively. And this is something I also find very, very encouraging because there are question marks. When he was drafted by the Toronto Raptors, would he get run? He can't really shoot elite just yet. So will there be a year of development or something? What's going on there? But if we look at how the Toronto Raptors are currently constructed right now, especially off the bench, people are, there's no spacing on this Toronto Raptors team. We love drafting these athletes. I can't shoot. I can't do this. I mean, if we look at who's out there on the bench, with Collin Murray-Boyles, the different lineups I can throw out there. I mean, playing him alongside a forward group of Gradey Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jacoby Walter, Jamison Battle, Mamu Kelishvili, that is a lot of floor spacing to have out there on the basketball court with CMB. So if he's going to be out there, with all that floor spacing, his question marks in regards to his jump shooting are mitigated in terms of what's going on. And even during this course of the summer, there have been highlights, and I know a lot of people, Ben Simmons has, taken out of their minds, like, okay, a guy like, that wasn't a great shooter in games, knocking down shots in the offseason. What does that mean? But there have been encouraging things about his mechanics happening over the course of training camp. And he's having an offensive impact out here in these games from what people are saying out there at training camp. And that'll do it for the open scrimmage. Ingram, Quickley, CMB, Gradey Dick, and Mamu Kelishvili were the standouts. Lots of turnovers and fouls and stuff. But, CMB getting listed as the standouts. And you can see he was able to score 10 points out there at halftime, and he's been the most impressive player. So, we're seeing these lineups really come to fruition right now that, of course, these are going to change, but he continues to be in that rotation where he's going to be in the second unit, ahead of Jamison Battle, ahead of Jacoby Walter, ahead of David Roddy, who has some NBA experience, ahead of Jonathan Mobo, who's a player that, of course, showed some flashes over the course of last season. Now, of course, you have Oler Shamshe, who could make some adjustments depending on his impact, but he hasn't played, he hasn't been in uniform just yet. He's been dealing with some injuries that we haven't got some major details on right now, but from the looks of it, from what we're seeing in training camp, from what we're seeing from all of this, is that CMB is going to get legitimate rotation run at the start of this year, be a key part of that second unit. He's impressing everyone. Everyone is really just looking at his game, looking at his defensive prowess, and his actual feel, his passing, his impact out there on the court, and he's going to be a guy that is going to be a mainstay for this Toronto Raptors team, even early on in his rookie season. And yes, I get all the question marks. I get all the concerns. I get why people are saying, hey, you can't have these lineups of Scottie Barnes, CMB, what's going on there at this point. But if you really look at it, there are so many shot creators out there for this Raptors group right now. You have Immanuel Quickley that can create, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes can. Heck, even off the bench, you have a Gradey Dick who's been improving his off-the-dribble performance. Jacoby Walter can get buckets. I mean, you can mix and match a lot of lineups and then really get the most out of CMB. I mean, people talk about how, the high IQ basketball of Scottie Barnes, CMB out there could really work well together and defensively could have an impact. I'm really encouraged to see what CMB could do with Brandon Ingram in those types of lineups because we see how valuable Scottie Barnes is on the court, as one of those playmaking forwards. And, to be able to have him on the lineup 48 minutes would be great. But, obviously that's not going to happen. You're dealing with injuries and stuff. But CMB can take on some of that playmaking role, over the course of when Scottie Barnes is on the bench and you run him out there with these other guys that are scorers that could, knock down shots off the catch, off the dribble, and all that stuff. I mean, Collin Murray-Boyles is looking like a guy that's going to, will he be a star this season? Unlikely, but that has all the tools, all the potential to take that leap in future years. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys are the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, go Toronto Blue Jays, baby. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.